People starting out, the Google Data Analytics Professional Certificate is a really good start. Like, it introduces you from the very beginning with great teachers for a low cost. Most of what's initially being built is based on ChatGPT, which comes from OpenAI, the company, right?
Right.
They haven't been transparent about what data they're using and how they're using it.
Right.
And she gives a really good background on, again, the dangers of data collection in general, and then how they're like, it's working into our lives. And also just more generally about like how we can keep an eye on not just data, but all technology, and make sure that it's like working for us as human beings, and not that we're becoming kind of slaves to the machine. So Brandeis Marshall, Data Conscience.
Okay. Hi, Marie. Welcome, and thanks for being here today.
Hi, MD. So happy to be here. I've seen your show pop up a few different times. I know you're very active on LinkedIn and on YouTube, so I'm happy that we finally get to chat in person like this.
I'm so happy to have you. Thank you so much for your support. This is wonderful. Please tell everybody about yourself for people who don't know you.
Yeah, absolutely. My name is Mary McCarthy. My current role is I'm Vice President of Marketing at Qubit, which is a company that does product analytics. I'll explain what that is a little bit later in the show. My background before getting into marketing within the tech and data world is I worked as a journalist for a long time, an international TV reporter, both in the United States and in France, and traveling to a lot of different countries. It was a terrific field to be in. But a few years ago, I did pivot into tech. I'm really open about the reasons why. It's because I needed to make more money. I'm a single parent. I live in Los Angeles. Life is expensive.
Right.
And media is not the highest paying nor the most stable field. So I followed the example of a few friends who had pivoted into the tech industry, got a lot of advice, did a boot camp, not necessarily what I'd recommend, but that it worked for me. And then just started looking for jobs and was able to work my way up. And the reason I kind of ended up on the marketing side of tech is it was a good combination of using my previous, communication and writing skills from journalism, having the tech understanding I got when I studied to be in tech, and then combining those to be able to market tech products. So it's a journey that has been fun. That's been a ton of work, a lot of stress, but that has paid off and put me in a role that I really enjoy right now.
Wow. Wow. What a story. So you are a data analyst. You did that boot camp. What was the boot camp? What did you learn?
Yeah, so the boot camp I did was called Galvanize, and they did it. It was data science. So my decision was like, I'm going to do a coding boot camp or a data science boot camp, one of those two. And I opted for data science because it was something. It's called data science, but I really just say data analysis. For someone who hadn't studied any of this before. Neither coding nor data. Data just felt a little bit more intuitive to me. Like, ultimately, when we talk about data, we're talking about information, right?
Right.
Stored and handled in a particular way, of course, but ultimately it's just information. And so as a journalist, I was like, intellectually, that makes sense to me. I just need to learn the tools to be able to understand and get insights from a different type of information than I used to do when I was a journalist. So whereas coding itself seemed quite foreign to me. Mm-hmm. The funny thing is, in order to study data, as you know, you do actually have to learn how to code. That's and you have to learn a whole bunch of math. So in some ways it was the harder path, but I was like, this makes sense. I'm going to try it. So I did a data science boot camp called Galvanize. They since shut down their boot camp, actually. And there are a lot of data boot camps out there still. And the reason I don't necessarily recommend doing one is they're expensive. I paid $17,000.
Oh, wow.
Yes. And looking back, what I learned, I could have learned for between a price of $0 and maybe $500 total by doing YouTube courses, maybe some Udemy, Coursera, some Google courses for a total of about $500. But I didn't have anyone telling me that. So do your research, talk to people like the both of us, right? To to get advice on what to study before writing a big check for one of those boot camps.
Right. So do you think like the Google Data Analytics certificate could be a good option instead of the bootcamp?
I think for people starting out, the Google Data Analytics Professional Certificate is a really good start. Like it introduces you from the very beginning with great teachers for a low cost. I think it's still just like $40 a month and a
Right.
total of a few $100. And if you apply for financial aid, Google will give it to you. Maybe not to everyone, but I have a lot of friends who applied and they got it.
Wow.
So you
That's
can
great.
actually do that for free. As you know, a lot of Udemy courses are also
Yeah.
very approachable. And
Yeah.
the Coursera ones might be a little bit more expensive. I don't know, but
Right.
still nothing like the 17,000 that I paid for the boot camp.
Wow. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. That's really good. That's really good. And you also have, I saw on your profile, LinkedIn Women in Data. If you want to talk a little bit about that.
I would love to. So I did my boot camp a couple of years ago. And again, had friends in tech, but didn't have like contacts who were like, Mary, come work for us. It's not like I was going to be handed a job. And I was 41 and I was essentially starting over in a new field and it was scary. And the first way I sort of marketed myself to find a job, obviously, was just looking around on LinkedIn. And in that, I met some great people, including a few women who run an organization called Women in Data, who either run it or who are involved in it. And interacting with them was, I don't want to say life-changing, but just like a really positive experience for me because they give me a lot of confidence. They treated me like an equal, whereas I was expecting to come in and be treated like a beginner. They immediately treated me as a professional equal because they recognized that, I had a lot of background prior to data. And it was just really, really refreshing and wonderful is what I needed at the time. They kind of gave me the confidence as I went out onto my first interviews, since became friends and really encouraged me since then, since they gave me encouragement. I've done my best to encourage other people who are entering the field because data is a field that a lot of people come into a little bit later in life and it's scary. A lot of people, I think, even if they don't talk openly about it, have the same motivations as me, which is they need more money in order to live, like a really practical thing. And, that's a lot of pressure. And so any kind of help and encouragement you can get from other people is so important. And so as much as I can, I give back to people in that way, even if it's just with, a kind word or passing along resumes when I can, things like that.
Yeah, yes, you do. Yes, yeah. Yeah, thanks for saying that. So I wanted to show some of your LinkedIn profile and then you're a very successful group on LinkedIn. So here, I mean, you're very successful. You have like 10K plus followers. And also you work for Qubit as the VP of marketing. If you want to talk a little bit about Qubit.
Yeah, sure. And if you want, someday we can do another interview, just talking about LinkedIn and how to teach people how to use LinkedIn.
Yes,
Because
that would
that's
be
one of my,
awesome. That would be awesome.
because it's, before I learned how to use LinkedIn well, like most of us, I hated it, right? Because it's anything that's related to looking for jobs is stressful, and LinkedIn is just a way of looking for jobs.
Yeah.
But if you set up your LinkedIn properly, and we won't go all into that now, but if you set it up properly, you can basically have it set up in such a way that recruiters will come to you, which takes away the pain of having to apply for jobs, right?
Right.
So again, when I switched into this field, that's one of the first things I learned. And I'd say that learning how to use LinkedIn effectively was a skill that was important, is the actual like data skills that I learned in the data boot camp. Because I mean, ultimately we all have skills no matter what field we're in, right? Whether it's tech or engineering or teaching or something entirely different. And LinkedIn is simply a way of showing the world and showing the right people what our skills are. And if you can get that in front of the right people, then, there's a lot more chance you're going to make money from those skills. So
yeah, it's so impressive. Like, yeah. And also, like you said, you help a lot of people, and I see, what you're doing with your groups. Thank you for giving back. So a little bit about Qubit, your new role.
Yeah, so Qubit is what's called an early stage startup. So just in those formative years, there's about 26 employees right now. I'll give you the sort of 60-second story behind how it was founded. It was founded by our CEO, Alex Lee, who's an immigrant to the US from China, and he was the chief technology officer at a company called Smule.
Okay.
And Smule was dealing with such big data, what's called product data, which is the data that tracks how a product is used. So Smule is kind of a predecessor to TikTok. It was like a karaoke app,
Okay.
music, video and karaoke app. So they were dealing with so much big data that the existing platforms just didn't work, the existing technology. So he got the idea of how to build a platform that was better. So he left and built that. And that is what Qubit became. And I'm super excited to work for them. I've worked at a few different startups now. And what I like about it is Alex and his team took the time to build a really good product to start selling it. So we actually have some big customers like Televisa Univision, Pluto TV, who are the other big customers? Influence Mobile, BET Plus, Wish. There you go. Yeah, you're great. You're good at this. And they did the product and started making money before they really started focusing on marketing. Because I think some companies, what they do is they bring in the marketing first and make all these flashy announcements and a flashy website. Whereas the heart of a company really should be the product or service that you're providing, right? So I'm super happy to come in now to a really, really strong product, a really strong sales team that's already selling it on a high level. And now I get to sort of tell the story of what this product is. So one of the first things that's happening in a couple of weeks is we have a brand new website that's going to kind of come up, because the website that we're looking at now, I feel like doesn't really tell what a great product Qubit is. Okay. And the last thing I'll say on that is if people are wondering what product analytics means, because it's a very specific term within data, because data, as you know, there's all different types of studying data. And product analytics on the simplest level is most of you have used, or most of us have used. If you've ever had a website or looked at who's visiting a website. Okay. The most basic version of product analytics is something like a Google Analytics, right? Which tracks, the users who come to a website and gives you a little bit of detail on that. Mm-hmm. But once you're a big company that has a really big website or a big digital product, you need something a lot more advanced than Google Analytics. Right. So after Google Analytics, there was a few products that were built that companies have been using. And the two biggest ones are called Amplitude and Mixpanel. And they've been around for about a decade, and they do it really well. So people who work in big companies can use those tools to get all sorts of insights into how people are using their website and using their e-commerce platforms and using, the products like Netflix. How are people navigating through that platform? But those products have been around for about a decade. Technology has moved ahead. Mm-hmm. And so Qubit is really the next generation of that. And a tool that, unlike the previous products, can really account for the big data that we're dealing with. Like if you think about streaming platforms, they're taking in so much data every day. Yep. And so much information about how people are using streaming platforms that you really need cutting edge technology to be able to capture all that data and then study it. And that's what Qubit does. So obviously it's a technology I'm passionate about. And you can kind of maybe get the sense too about what I like about working in tech. Like to me, it's really fun.
It's really a perfect match for you. Like you have the background in journalism, in storytelling, you have the background in data, and now you are a VP of marketing. And Qubit is also, like you said, is the product analytics company. Mm-hmm. It's awesome.
Yeah. So it's a good fit. And I've sometimes people ask me about working in startups, like what's it like to work in a startup? And I've discovered that it's a really good fit for me, because when you're in a startup, obviously the teams are smaller. but things move really fast, right? Like it's not like a big company where you do your work, but you might not ever really see the impact. In a startup, you need to get your work done fast, and you're probably working on 3 or 4 different projects. And if you have ideas, you can implement them. So there's like a lot of freedom and creativity that I like. The flip side of that is it does take a lot of hard work. But I didn't kind of set out to say I want to work in startups. I ended up getting recruited for them. But it's turned out to be something that I really enjoy.
Wow, awesome. Let's talk about data analytics. You have
Yes.
a very successful group on LinkedIn. People around the world taking the Google Data Analytics certificate. How did you come up with that idea? And what's
Yeah,
that group?
I'll tell you all about it. Is that how you and I first connected? Was
That's
it?
correct. That's correct.
Okay. So you're gonna laugh at this. This was purely unintentional.
Wow.
So when I was after my boot camp, actually, I just kept studying data, right? Because I was applying for jobs, but I realized like any data skills that you learn, or coding obviously being part of studying data. If you don't like at the beginning, especially if you don't like maintain those on a daily basis, you're going to forget really fast.
Yes.
So I finished my boot camp. I was depressed because I was looking for jobs, but then I was like, I'm just going to do another online certificate to keep my mind fresh. And it was at the time, Google had just launched their Google Data Analytics Professional Certificate. So I was like, I'm going to kill 2 birds with 1 stone. I'm going to take this course because it's like very affordable. And then I'm going to, and that'll help keep my skills fresh. And then I will do some LinkedIn posts about it because that will help like me be busy on LinkedIn. Because one of the best things you can do on LinkedIn is just post all the time.
Yeah.
Even like post about what you're learning, because then people will come to you and they'll be like, oh, she knows this stuff. Maybe we'll hire her. So I started taking it, started doing some posts about it. And at the end of each unit, you can chat with other students who are taking it.
Okay.
There's like a little discussion
Oh,
section.
yes.
But people don't really chat in there. And there was a guy who turned out named Hawk, who's in Singapore. And he put in there like, oh, we should all like form a LinkedIn group, because nobody really wanted to chat over in their platform. It wasn't conducive to chatting. So he and I connected on LinkedIn and we started the group together, just as a kind of a place where people could talk about the course, ask each other questions. And now, as you can see, that was almost 29,000 people ago.
Yes, this blow up. This is so awesome. Yes.
I call it the study group that got out of hand.
I can
But the
imagine
beauty,
how you managing this group. This is so awesome.
oh, that's the beauty of it. So I don't have to do much at all because so eventually a lot of people, we just post it. We'd occasionally post over in the Google certificate. We'd post that like, come join our LinkedIn group. And then I think Google started including it as an official recommendation.
Yes, it was included when I took it. You guys were included as an official from Google itself. I'm like, wow, because they didn't. Yeah, this was a great idea.
Yeah. Well, it didn't make me any money or Hawk or anything. But again, that's not the intention for us. It was. I wish I could say I got rich off of this, but we don't get any money for it. I'm just joking. I really wasn't looking to make a profit, but they started recommending it officially. So I think that's why people keep joining. But there became a point where even just to keep up with like the people requesting to join, it was too much for the 2 of us. Yes. So we recruited some other people to also be moderators. I think there's a total of about 12 of us now. And so everybody it kind of manages itself. Everybody, when they get a chance, they just go through and let people into the group. They accept the member requests. We don't do really any screening. And then the other big thing that we do is sometimes the group will start to get spammy. So we'll go in and block anybody who's spamming, delete anybody, or, block or delete the posts. And then at times we'll make sure that if this doesn't really happen at the beginning, there were times where there weren't enough like high quality posts, people kind of asking good questions or sharing good work. So then we'd make sure the moderators started doing that to sort of set an example. But now people post, it's either questions about the course or their own work, their own certificates. And it's just kind of its own happy
Yeah,
system.
yeah, it's a very good system. It's just like a living system. And I can imagine, Google didn't contact you because you're right there in LA, California. And
Isn't it funny? Some of them joined. So we knew that the group was getting a lot of attention when like there's quite a few higher ups from Google and some other companies in there, and we were happy to let them in.
yeah,
We just told them, if they could, as much as they can, send recruiters and try to recruit these students, because
yeah,
Google advertises the course at the beginning. I don't know if they still do. They advertise it as saying, this will really set you up to get a job in data analytics.
that's correct. That's correct.
I don't think it's enough, really,
That's correct.
by itself. You
Yeah.
need to do further courses and projects. But if that's what they're saying, they should also, as much as possible, try to recruit students
Yes,
who've
and
completed the certificate.
also they didn't think about this idea, like when student they are done, maybe we can have another group so they can stay together. So you guys have to come up with this great idea for them.
Right. No, I mean, it's thanks
So,
to people like you who are in it that make it
right. So
something strong.
right now I'm taking another certificate with them, with the Google Project Management certificate. And what they did, they have a Slack group now.
Mm.
So Google, they created, the Slack group that everybody, we can meet on Slack and people ask questions. Sometimes people go on Slack and say, hey, I just completed course 1, I just completed course 2.
Right.
Yeah, they're trying to do that. But LinkedIn is just is more convenient for that, is a place for professionals for all of that. So
Yeah, and what I like about it is, as you know, too, once you start kind of moving ahead and studying more into like the specific niche you might go into, there's like so many Slack groups out there that
yes,
sometimes that's overwhelming. Whereas with LinkedIn, I feel like people should be on LinkedIn anyway,
correct.
and they should be learning how to use it. So what I sometimes tell people within the group too is like, use this as like a practice place to get comfortable posting your work and then start posting it on the regular part of LinkedIn. Because especially I find with, I would say within the group, sometimes women hesitate to post their work because it's such an overwhelmingly male field, right? So I've said a few times, like, everyone should feel free to post, but women especially, like, use this as a place that is going to be a safe place to post your work, to ask questions. I've gotten some pushback when I made those comments, people saying like that's too feminist of a take, and I told them, well then, if you don't share the philosophy of the group, go, you're welcome to join your other group.
That's true. I agree. So what's your advice for someone who want to start a LinkedIn group?
Yeah, I would say with any group you start, do it in response to a need. Like Hawk and I, it just happened organically. Like we said, clearly there should be some place to discuss this course, and it's not happening here, so let's create it elsewhere. So if you I would say two things. If you want a group to like maybe or a community to take off and become big, don't stay in your own head and say, oh, I want to do this. Think about what the needs are out there, right? Open yourself to that mindset. Or if there's something you really like that you're into, you can always do that too. And maybe you'll get only 10 or 100 people to join. But if it's what you want to focus on, that's also totally okay, right?
Yeah, I want to congratulate you for this. This is a huge success, I like it. I like it a lot.
Oh, thank you. That's nice to hear that. No, it's to me, it's and I think because your channel is focused on education, I think you have the same mentality. Like,
right.
Anything I can do to pass along the knowledge I've gained, that puts meaning in my work. Like, working in tech, working in data, we're not saving lives, right? We're not surgeons, and we're not, it's maybe not the most, day-to-day doesn't feel like the most meaningful work, but bringing in that element of like mentorship and teaching and helping other people advance their lives and get more financial stability, to me, that's what brings meaning to it. Plus, I have to say this, I've met fantastic people. Like I've made so many good friends, just through LinkedIn and then even through the group, like, which is beautiful. Like we, 10, 20 years ago, we couldn't have had this community, right? Of the type of conversation you and I are having now. It's almost like, whether it's LinkedIn, YouTube, in related platforms, it's almost like a democratization of the type of opportunities and discussions that were reserved for universities, right?
That's true. Yeah, and I saw on LinkedIn, even your people who help you with managing the group. You have people from all over the world.
Yes. I know we have. Oh my gosh, we have. Let me see if I can say off the top of my head. I hope I don't want to leave anybody out, but we have Hawk, who's in Singapore. Katie, I think, is in Malaysia. Natalia is in New York City. Glorious is somewhere in the US. I'm not sure where. Sorry, Glorious. Hasna is, I think, in Germany, but she's Middle Eastern. Frank, I think, is in Cameroon. There's a few that I'm forgetting. Jasmine is in Sweden. Kevin is in Belgium. Yeah, like Anant is in India. So yeah, no, but it does speak to clearly the popularity of the Google course, and then the general interest in data, right? In people trying to break into this space.
That's true. So talking about data, what are some of the benefits of using data analytics for people and for businesses?
Yeah, so obviously most companies, will say most medium-sized companies and up now, try to build the data into their work in some way or other. For individuals with their careers, who again are often people who are trying to get into data, have somewhat of like some people are like me who had no STEM background, science and technology background. More are like you who have like an engineering background, or other people come from things even like accounting or whatever. But I tell them there's only three skills you really need to have before you start looking for a job. Get really good at Excel, which I didn't know. I mean, because Excel, like we all learned like the basics of that in high school. I had no idea that would be helpful, but I learned all this fancy stuff in my data science boot camp, and then you go into a company and most people are working in Excel.
Exactly. That's true.
It's wild. Yeah. So get really good at Excel. You can do that for free, or you can pay for, like, again, never pay more than like $50 or $100 at most for a course on anything, without getting really good advice. So, but Excel, you could probably learn enough like from YouTube and TikTok without paying for anything. The second is SQL, structured query language, the language for querying databases. It's a coding language, it's programming, but extremely logical, and probably, in addition to being like really marketable, because again, you need this to start looking for a data job, it's probably the best language to learn if you're going to start coding anyway, because it doesn't feel like you're learning to code. It just feels like you're learning a logic problems initially. So do that. Again, you can find the courses for free or close to free. And then the third thing is learn a data visualization tool, something like Tableau or Power BI. To bring it back to the Google course, if you're doing the Google course, you get Excel, you get Google Sheets, which is the same, either or.
Right.
They have a pretty good unit on SQL. And then they have Tableau. Right now, people are saying that like the equivalent of Tableau that's a bit more popular is Power BI, but learn one of those two. In some ways, they're interchangeable. And with those three things, you can start looking for a job. Again, data visualization, like Tableau or Power BI, SQL, and Excel/Google Sheets. There actually is one of the moderators in the group who I left off, Annie. She got a job just after doing the Google certificate. She was literally like in the healthcare field. She was an occupational therapist or a physical therapist, one of those things. Did the Google group or Google certificate, networked a bunch on LinkedIn, and she works as a Tableau consultant now.
Wow. Yeah, I know some people too who already got a job after the certificate. Yeah.
Amazing.
Some of them reach out to me because of my YouTube. Yeah.
And what for the people you've seen who got a job, what was the secret? Was it just like hard work or?
Yeah, they just keep going. It's like you said, once they finish the certificate, they just keep adding more courses, learning Power BI, learning other tools, and publishing it on LinkedIn. They just keep going so they don't forget.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not easy, but it's totally doable to get a job. Yeah.
Yeah. It's yeah, exactly. It's a good field. It's a good field. So you already talked about some of the most popular tools in data analytics. Talked about Excel, SQL, Tableau. In the Google program that we learn about R programming language, and as you know, you have Python, which is very popular, right? Do you want to expand a little bit on those tools?
Yeah, so the boot camp I did was Python based, and usually people learn either R or Python. So again, before I even learned Excel, I learned Python, which was fine. But then I was like, damn it, I should have learned Excel instead. But it's good. It was good to learn a language. Again, it was a big challenge for me. It was my first coding language. And Python. Sorry.
Python is really great. Like it's so powerful.
Mm-hmm.
Like, a very powerful language.
Very, very marketable. And that's what I'd say for people who are learning. Start with the three we said, Excel, SQL, and Tableau, and then do Python. R is certainly not a waste of time,
Right.
but it's more what I would say for people in those early years, unless you happened to do R already, which I think it's more like people who do a strict academic path who've learned R, because it's more like really, really good at the statistics parts. If you get to a point where you need R, you will learn it. And you will probably be able to get the chance to learn it on the job.
Right.
Just like with all of these, like when you get into a job, you'll realize that there probably are 2 or 3 other things that you're going to have to learn. And fortunately, you'll be learning them while you're getting paid to learn it. This is my secret. I never finished my dirty little secret. I never finished a Google certificate because I got too busy. I got a job, which was the whole
You
point.
don't have to actually. Yeah.
Yeah. And so there were 2, I never did the R unit because I also felt like I didn't need R. And maybe that's a good lesson. Like
Right.
when
If
you
you know
start,
Python, that's true. If you know Python,
yeah,
I don't think you need R because most of the companies, like you said, mostly going to use Python anyway.
yeah,
Most people in academics use R, but yeah, I tried. I wanted to learn how it is, how it's different from Python. Um, but yeah, I don't think, yeah, like you said, you need to finish it. If you just take the certificate, learn some of the early courses, and even Google, they talk about it. They say you can speed up the process because they already ask you if you have already seen it. If you want, you can just
kind of skip over it.
you can
Exactly.
skip over, right?
Yes, yes, yeah. And maybe I shouldn't be embarrassed to say I didn't finish the certificate because
Right.
we should all do. It's like if you're reading a book, if you don't like the book or if it's not useful to you, you don't need to finish it, set it aside. I got what I needed from the course. I also got this community of almost 30,000
Yes,
people,
almost 30,000 is
but
gonna keep growing.
right. And then since I didn't stay, I thought that I would, once I started in data, I thought that I would work as a data analyst and use all these tools every day. And fairly quickly, I switched over to the marketing side where, yes, there's data involved. And yes, I need to know how all of these tools work, but I don't need to keep building my actual data skills. So it wasn't practical for me to become an R expert.
Right. You're already doing much better because you're giving people a platform. Now they have a platform of 30,000 people. When they finish the certificate, they can go there, share it. If they have some work in data analytics, you can share it there. People can see your work. Yeah.
Right.
Much
Yeah.
better.
No, it's great to see. And I get excited every time I see people, especially when it's like, somebody from a part of the world we haven't like heard of or whatever. And to see, and the other thing that I love about the group is when someone posts like, we'll say a SQL question, because all that stuff is hard at the beginning.
Yes.
And to see other people chiming in to help is like so nice. And that's a good way to learn too, because when you answer other people's questions,
Yes.
it's like empowering to yourself, right?
Yeah, what I did because I had my channel, when I finished the certificate, I made a video of
Yeah,
my case study, and then I made a Kaggle notebook
right.
of all the steps I follow. I get inspiration from other people as well who did it. But once I publish it on Kaggle and then on my YouTube. Then anytime because people reach out to me, anytime they ask me question, I just send them those links. Say, hey, you have
Right.
all these steps here. And for the most part, they were able to do it by themselves. But recently, I even get someone from France, and he
Yeah.
reached out to, hey, I saw your video. Then I sent him the Kaggle notebook, and then I say, hey, you have all the steps there. If you've been following the Google certificate, and you will be able to follow this. And
That's terrific. Yeah. No,
what
that's
they
huge.
one thing they did with once you finish the certificate with Google is, I think it's a good idea. They just let you buy your own. They just say, hey, these are the case studies.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Right. Right. Yeah.
So some people, like you said, they don't have a technical background, like coming from some different field. They just don't know where to start. Even if they've been following all these courses, now you let them, it's like, okay. And sometimes they will end up not doing the case study because they just, they lose motivation if they try it like a couple of times, maybe a couple of weeks. So that video I made, that one also, I think it's one of my most popular videos, like almost, 30,000 people or almost watch
Oh,
it.
that's huge. That's great. No, and I think that's, again, that's people who want to learn, but they need to see how someone else has done it, and that's fantastic. Yeah, no, it's great. And I never got into posting projects or anything on Kaggle, but that's obviously a great resource. And I've been amazed to see people who start like from zero and then work their way up, and before you know it are like, have notebooks out on Kaggle. It's amazing.
Yes, yes. So machine learning, what's your thought on that? Now we go from data analytics now to machine learning and all these algorithms.
Right. So I'll answer that in the way that so when the data boot camp I did, for example, rather than kind of working with the reality of how data looks in most companies, we'll say even medium to big size companies where you get a job as a data analyst. And I'll say data analyst because most companies don't have data scientists, or even if they're called a data scientist, they're really doing data analyst work. And it's going to be business related work that's being done in Excel or SQL, and then maybe some visualizations and dashboards and things like Tableau. Most companies are not really working in machine learning, like really, really big data. You're then doing, running algorithms on. That's only the reality for, I don't know the percentage of companies, but a quite small percentage of companies. So I think the hype around machine learning and big data, in terms of like as practitioners coming in to the field, you kind of have to know that that's been overhyped. Obviously, in our day-to-day life, are we all affected by and a part of machine learning? Yes. When we pick up our phone, when we go on Amazon, when we use Netflix, when we call a car with Uber, all of those things are driven by big data and machine learning algorithms. But as a data practitioner, those are not typically the things that you'd be working on every day. And I think what people need to know about machine learning, first of all, when you go into a company is, even if there's aspirations of doing that, that's probably not the solution to most business concerns, right? But then in our day-to-day lives, we should all have at least some basic awareness of the algorithms that are affecting our lives and what that means. So, just being aware that which I don't want to be condescending and say people don't have that, but I think most people don't have that. I didn't know that very well a few years ago, right? That when we go on Amazon and we need to understand how concisely those ads are targeting us, because they're obviously based on all the data that they've collected about us. And the more awareness we have about that, the easier it is for us to maybe be a smart consumer and say, wait, I don't need to buy that. Actually, it's only because, they're targeting me in such a pinpointed way.
And these algorithms, they're sometimes very intrusive. Like one day I was looking for, I don't know, typing web development. and then I was searching for that. And then I went back to YouTube. I started seeing ads on website development,
Oh, it's wild.
like
Yeah.
like Wix, all of these web stuff. I'm like, these guys, they're really smart. Like,
It's crazy
I
how
already know
everything,
what
yeah.
I'm looking for, something like that.
Yeah. And I think even for us who are, working in tech and aware of it, it's sometimes kind of you have to step back and see how powerful it is in good and bad ways. And I think that the general public doesn't have that awareness. Our lawmakers don't have that awareness. The example I always use in trying to kind of get across the notion of how dangerous data and algorithms are for our lives in the US. And I think these equivalents of this exist in most countries. When you look at renting an apartment, right? That I live in Los Angeles, I rent an apartment. You live in Vegas, I don't know if you rent or own or whatever, but most of the big rental property companies are all using the same software that has the data of so many Americans and all the specifics of that particular region, so that they can price their rent at exactly the right dollar amount every month to optimize how much they can take from you.
Wow.
Which is just like, how is a person, how can you expect to save money or get ahead in the world when the basic things like housing are being controlled by algorithms owned by companies that are just there to suck every last dollar out of you.
Right.
And I don't think, like, the typical renter, I don't think they're aware that that's why rent is set at X amount of dollars per month. I don't think that if lawmakers were fully aware of this, first of all, I would like to think that they would ban that. But also they could, create rent control policies, things like that. But to me, that just shows like the applying the reality of data collection and algorithms to rental prices, to me, just shows like a really bleak present and future for life.
Yeah, I agree, because I try when I just came to Vegas, like I said, I tried to do some research. Like you, I'm a data person. I try to go around the city,
Yeah.
do a lot of asking, but they all have the same price. I'm like, where's the
Yeah.
competition? Like, no one, they all have the same price. If you want, like, it, I don't know, 2 bedroom or 3 bedroom, whatever, you're not gonna find many differences, maybe $50 here, $100 here, but not that much.
No, that's exactly it. And I think the assumption by everyone is, well, that's just the way the market is. Well, it's because they're using all this information that they have on all of us, and they know exactly how much we make and how much we pay in taxes and what our credit rating is. And it's wild, and it's disturbing. Yeah. Not to mention, obviously, then on top of that, there's the any of the surveillance tech, and we've had stories of as I'm sure you've followed closely, of police or the algorithms that do facial identity and that have identified the wrong people as potential criminals, and those deeply discriminate against Black men more than anyone else, right? Which is a huge not just like offense to civil liberties, but also to like the physical safety of individuals in this country. And I'm horrified continually by like media stories, or just the way people casually talk about these things as if, oh, like, it's great, we're building AI into our surveillance. Like, you should not say that calmly in a sentence. If you really understand the implications of that. And again, that gets at like the lack of education and awareness about the power and dangers of data collection, and then building those into algorithms that
And even with the Google program, what I like about it, one of the things I like about it is they spend a lot of time talking about data bias, data ethics. Because most people who are not scientists, they just think, oh, the data, that's the data, like fact is data, but data can be biased, data can be, screwed, and
That's right. I forgot that they do build that in, which is
yeah,
important, especially for people who are maybe starting out. And although Google is also, I don't know if you followed it, but Google is the company that fired one of the most well-known AI ethics experts to meet Drew a few years ago. One of the first people to, very loudly speak out about the danger of large language models, which is what powers ChatGPT and all that. And they fired her and some of their other specialists. So I think like all of the big tech companies who are obviously now and will continue to profit from this, we have to make sure that it's like, I don't know who's going to be sounding the alarm bells. Ideally, independent experts, universities, and our lawmakers. But right now, I'm deeply cynical about the future of all this. I don't know if you were going to expect that perspective from me, but
Oh, this is a great segue. Yeah, it's a great segue now to AI, because I wanted to ask you about it. Now, we talked about data analytics, machine learning, data science. Now we have all these tools, ChatGPT, Google Boards. So what are some of the benefits and maybe some of the risks? You already talked about it right now, but maybe.
Yeah. So obviously ChatGPT was launched in the fall of last year, and there've been a few iterations of it since then. I haven't played around with it too much. And I know it's fun, and there's obviously all these companies that are like building it into their tools and creating their own startups based on it and everything. But again, to me, it's terrifying because most of what's initially being built is based on ChatGPT, which comes from OpenAI, the company, right?
Right.
They haven't been transparent about what data they're using and how they're using it.
Right.
So it's super fun for any of us to hop on like ChatGPT, Bard AI. I played around a little bit with both of them. But I haven't played around much because I'm not going to do it until I have time to like sit down and do some proper research. And we don't know enough about how anything we're entering in there is being used. Most of the people who are playing around with these or even building things already and using ChatGPT, that's the product owned by OpenAI. They have not been transparent about the data that they're using to power the large language model that powers ChatGPT. And that is deeply problematic to me. It's, again, I know I sound bleak and cynical, but I am like, we need to temper our enthusiasm for these technologies until we all have a basic understanding of how they work, the data behind them. And then great, let's build a world built on AI. Let's use it if it can, practically. The people I know who use it already daily in their work are, people who are coding, who use it to do parts of the coding. It's not replacing their jobs in any way, but it gets them through some of the more tedious steps. People who obviously do a lot of writing, content marketers, some graphic artists. I'm dying to go in there and play around with some of the artistic side of things, but I'm not going to do it until I know more, because I'm not going to put, say photos of myself or photos of my daughter or my dog and, enter them there and do some fun art with it when we don't know how who's going to use that, what permissions I'm signing over for people to use my photos or, again, any other data. I know I'm rambling a bit here, but I don't agree with what was issued a few weeks ago by Elon Musk and a bunch of other people saying like, let's just put a hold on this development for 6 months, because that's not how life works. That's not how technology works. And people who signed that most of them, I'd say Elon Musk and many of the others, have their own interests at heart. And they're also some of the people who
That's
are
correct.
extremely dodgy at best,
And
ethically.
he's also behind ChatGPT, right?
Yes, he's
Like,
one of the investors in it, of
right.
course. And now he's, of course, launching his own thing as well. But so we certainly not like, let's halt everything. That can't happen. But I don't know, we need to launch some sort of public education around this. Whether that's sort of explainers on how it works and what the dangers are, and really get that information out there to people of all ages before things move ahead too fast.
Yeah.
Again, I'm someone who works in data, who understands the basics of how this works and loves staying up to date on this type of technology. And it's moving so fast that I am in no way up to date on it at all. Yeah. So how, if someone like me can't keep up with it, how can we expect the general public to? So I don't know, maybe we should launch some sort of educational snippets to get out there or something. I haven't thought that through too much, but whatever it is.
Idea. That's a good AI education.
Yeah, it needs to happen quickly.
That can be another LinkedIn group for AI.
Yes, exactly. Yes.
So I just play around. I ask them, ChatGPT and Google Bard, how long it takes sunlight to travel from the sun to our planet Earth. So both of them got it right. So they said 8 minutes and 20 seconds. And then ChatGPT expand here, talk about the distance from the sun to our planet Earth, which is 93 million miles or 150 million kilometers, which is correct. Also, one astronomical unit. And then so it was accurate here. And then Google Bard also get 8 minutes 20 seconds. And then they talk about the speed of light, 186,000 miles per second. And then what else they say that's interesting here? They said if the sun were to suddenly disappear, we would not know about it 8 minutes and 20 seconds. Then,
so they give kind of an example to think about it. Yeah.
Yes. Then I asked them the same thing. I said, what is the future of AI for the next 10 years?
Okay.
So ChatGPT said predicting the exact future of AI over the next 10 years is difficult. but it's trying to give me some advancement in AI over the next decade. So increase in automation, and then improve personalization. And number 3 was enhance natural language processing. And then number 4, greater use of AI in healthcare, such as medical imaging and drug discovery. And number 5, continued advancement in robotics. So that's what ChatGPT said. Let's look at Google.
What about Bard?
Yeah, Bard is like, so AI will automate more jobs. So they didn't talk about what are the jobs they're gonna automate. And then AI will improve our healthcare. So they both, have healthcare in their response here. And then AI will make our lives more convenient. And then AI will help us solve some of the world's biggest problems, like climate change, poverty, disease. And then the conclusion is, this is so funny, look at the conclusion for both. So these are AI talking, it's not human beings.
Yeah.
Right? So overall, the future of AI over the next 10 years is likely to be marked by continued advancement and innovation across a wide range of industries and applications. And then Google, they're more, I think they
a bit more cautious.
Yeah. Yes. The future of AI is full of promise, but it is important to remember AI is a tool. Like any tool, it can be used for good or for bad. It is up to us to ensure that AI is used for the benefit of humanity, not its detriment.
Right. Yeah, they throw that in at the end. It's incredible.
Oh my God. This is scary,
It is scary. Yeah. And so also so damn simplistic. Like if we wanted to use if we with tech or non-tech solutions, we already could solve climate change and poverty. Right. We don't need AI to do that. Maybe AI will bring that about. Unlikely. Or, in healthcare, yes, data is being used to, improve some things, some diagnostics and things like that. But also, what's incredible to me is we still don't have, a decent system of electronic medical records and just tracking basic patient data, in most parts of the world, including the US. So, ultimately data and AI, is it like all technology where it kind of moves ahead and fits and starts and, one step forward, 10 steps back.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I think you're right. It's kind of simplistic, like we're gonna end poverty. How,
We
but
could end it now. We have
exactly.
the resources to end it now if we gave a damn, right?
Right. Also, yeah, also I was speaking one of my interview, I was talking to someone who is expert in NPL, natural language processing,
Yeah.
and they were a little bit skeptic because they're like, most people, especially here in the US, sometimes we forget that this is like English language because it's
Mhm.
English. You have more data in the internet about English, right?
Mhm.
But if you go down to other different languages, let's look at like African dialects.
Mhm.
Most people of some tribe they have never been in the internet, so you cannot find a lot of data.
Oh
So
yeah.
these tools need data, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So once you switch languages, maybe your database is gonna be more small, right?
Right, right. I don't know how I mean, I've studied natural language processing, which is just, for people
Okay.
who don't know, which is just how it's like what powers a lot of anything, things like Siri, anything that,
Right.
the voice to text, um, that basically converts like the language we speak into
Right.
bytes,
Let's look at, for example,
yeah,
sorry,
go ahead.
sorry for calling. Look at, for example, one of the African languages, like I speak a language called Fulani, right?
Yeah,
So, and we have like 200 of them in Africa. They are not written languages, they're just verbal languages,
right,
right? So you cannot find a website where it's written in Fulani or in Mandengo,
right.
like that. So it's
So
just
will we get to a point where the languages that aren't written, and then the ones that don't have enough data of people being online, will they become like more disempowered than ever before?
um no, the thing was the efficiency of the model. Let's say I ask
Yeah.
GPT something, um because I don't know, I'm trying to understand is when I ask these AI tools, let's say, what is the speed of light?
Mhm.
They know the answer because they can scan maybe the internet and
Mhm.
find somewhere where someone published the speed of light, then bring it back to you, right?
Right.
Make sense?
Yes.
So the data already exists on the internet, so they're
Mhm.
just going to find it. So what if you're talking in other languages where you don't have the data in that language? Is that was that was the question I'm
You
trying.
don't have the same access. Oh yeah, I see
Yeah.
what you mean. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And what I was getting at was I again, I've studied a fair bit of, understand the workings of natural language processing, and have done some natural language processing analysis in both French and English. But I assume natural language processing can be done in the same way on Chinese. And like, if you want to talk about a powerful data set, like
Yeah.
the Chinese, just by force of their population,
Right.
have so much data
Right.
that if we're going to be living in an AI powered world,
Right.
just by the factor of their population, will they pass us all out?
Mm.
I don't know.
Yeah. The
What's
Chinese.
the most spoken language? Because obviously, if you bring in India, thank
Right.
goodness for the power of English. Thank goodness for India.
Right.
Is English the most spoken language in the world now? I
Um,
don't know.
that's a good question. Let's ask ChatGPT.
Let's ask ChatGPT.
I
Because
was
I think India's population just passed.
I wanted
Oh,
most.
it's still Mandarin and Chinese. Okay.
That's what they said. The most spoken language
Huh.
here is Mandarin Chinese with over 1.3 billion. It is followed closely by Spanish with around 460 million. Um, so let's ask Google also. So okay, this one said Mandarin Chinese
Yeah.
1.1 billion. See, this one says 1.1 and ChatGPT said 1.3 billion, but that's fine.
Interesting. But
And then
Still, if you take the total number of English speakers, because I assume in India, a lot of them, it wouldn't be their first language.
all right, now it's on Google, right?
Right.
When I ask Google, Google's saying
Interesting.
English. Number one, English, 1.4.
Oh, that's obviously that meant Google made a mistake. They meant to say billion, right?
Probably, yeah. They meant to say billion. No, 1,000 million. So 1.4.
Oh, okay. I got it. Yeah. So 1.4 billion.
So according to Ethnologue, English is the most spoken language in the world, including native and non-native,
Right.
like Latin or Greek. Okay. So those AI tools. So here, English 1.1, Mandarin 1. It's so close.
It's so close.
So close.
Right.
And then
Yeah.
Hindi, almost 700 million. It's so
Wow.
close. That was a great question, actually.
Yeah. Well, when we think now that it's language data that's powering these AI tools
Right.
from like both a tech and political perspective, language kind of becomes more important than ever, right?
Yeah. So that's why I was asking about other languages, because these AI tools, they work on the internet, right? Hopefully the internet will never go down, so we fine, right? The
Yeah.
internet is working. But if there is no internet, how they gonna find the answer, right?
Right. Yeah.
Because if I don't have internet, I can go at the library, maybe find a book and then read it, or ask someone, an expert. But these AI, they really need the internet. They need electricity.
Oh, I see what you're saying, that we have to think maybe a bit about how we preserve the kind of common pool of knowledge, knowing that if these data sets and tools were to disappear, where is that information stored, sort of? Is that what you're getting at?
Yeah, something like that. But this AI, they're so dependent on the internet, or
Mhm.
what we publishing on the internet, right?
Mhm.
As you know, you speak French a lot. Merci beaucoup. Merci pour ton français.
Oui, bien sûr.
Yes, thank you. So when you studied in French,
Yeah.
most of, let's say you're trying to do a PhD in
Yeah.
more in French or in the French speaking countries,
Mhm.
when you try to do your research, you realize that most of the published research, they are in English
Yeah.
and they get translated in French.
Yeah.
So that's where I was going to, just to say English language is rich, it's so rich, like I don't know, 1,000 times or a lot of 100 times more than the other languages in terms of data on the internet.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So which is good for the AI tools, because once you ask them a question, they can go find in a huge data set, compared to a small language, that didn't exist in the internet. If you try
Right.
to speak in that language onto the AI.
Right. I haven't even so if I type a question in French into ChatGPT, will it respond in French?
I didn't try it. I don't
Yeah, it's funny because it's such
probably.
obvious things, but I haven't tried it.
Let's try it. Let's try it. This is
Let's try it. So let's on va demander even the same question, like quelle est la langue la plus courante dans le monde, ou la plus parlée, something like that. What's the same one about the most popular language?
Wow.
But then is it just translating that into English, looking for the information in English, and then translating the answer into French?
Possibly, because that's where you have the most data set, I think.
Yeah, I'd be curious to know if that's its default then, because it's just a quick query to first translate it, and then
Wow, he's speaking to me in French.
isn't that wild? Yeah.
That was a great question. I didn't know, Yeah.
No, I mean, there's, as much as I'm cynical about all this, because again, we need to be aware of the dangers and what data is driving that. Like there's an excitement, and it's probably the excitement that people were feeling when the internet first started, and there were fears when the internet first started, certainly. That turned out to be, most of them, not particularly valid.
Right.
But I think this is something that's so different, that And I'll give it to anyone who wants a book to read.
Yeah.
There's a few, just, just look for books on AI ethics. There's a lot of good ones out there. But one that I read recently that it's more for people who work in data or tech, but you can understand it if you don't. And the author is Brandeis Marshall.
Okay.
And it's called Data Conscience. And the subtitle is Algorithmic Siege on Our Humanity. And she gives a really good background on, again, the dangers of data collection in general, and then how they're like, it's working into our lives. And also just more generally about like how we can keep an eye on not just data, but all technology, and make sure that it's like working for us as human beings, and not that we're becoming kind of slaves to the machine. So Brandeis Marshall, Data Conscience.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
So we can see you next time. All
Sounds
right.
great. Okay, take care.
Take care. Bye-bye.